Fur will be flying and feathers too as the Tigers and Jayhawks battle it out at the Border Showdown. Join this great rivalry at the new Arrowhead on Saturday, November 27th. Great seats are available for MU and KU at Ticketmaster.com or the stadium box office.
Kind of getting back to how we started out at the beginning of the year, I felt like the guys got into it. We started to have a little more, or got back to having a little more fun practicing, which is one of the keys that I think was going on early on in the first half of the season. And like I said, it felt like it was a real good practice, made progress. We got a lot of work to do yet still, but I do feel like we were able to stack two good practices together, Wednesday and now Thursday, and we're looking forward to this game. We're looking forward to getting back to Arrowhead for our fans to be able to come out and kind of build on what we've been doing here. And, you know, and we need them. And like I said, we know how important this week is for our development and for us to continue to take steps. And then ultimately this Sunday, we know how important that is, and this will be to us our biggest game to date. And again, it's coming fast now, so we're working hard and got to be ready.
What did you mean more fun in practice? How did you see that?
Just the feeling, Adam. You know, I think that you know, we have a sign up here. You know, don't confuse routine with commitment, and sometimes I think you just kind of get into a routine a little too much, even though we've worked hard to change things up. But by just continuing to impress upon our guys that we need to get back to practicing the way we were even all the way into training camp. You know, one of the things that I know I felt all the way through, you know, training camp and the beginning of the year was that it seemed like guys were running around having fun, felt pretty good about themselves, and I just felt that here this week that you know, even though we were hitting and it could have been an easy day to kind of say, you know, middle of the season, it'd be a little more work. It just felt like there was that the guys were enjoying themselves out there, and that it was, you know, a good spirited practice.
You might have addressed this the other day, but what did it tell you about Matt that he didn't want to come out Sunday in a game that really wasn't within reach? But I mean, he could have easily gone over the sideline and just call it a day. But he said he wanted to stay in. What did you learn about him that day?
Well, I think that was a bunch of guys. I mean, really, it was the majority of the guys that, as you tried to make changes or get other guys in there, that there was a resistance or fight to it. But Matt, you know, he's a competitive guy, and you know, we're a young transitioning team that needs all the experience we can get, and you know, it told me that Matt wanted to be in there, and he wanted to continue to lead the team, and like I said, sometimes the leader's got to go down with the ship occasionally. And he was, you know, he felt like he was part of it from the start, and didn't want to not be part of it in the end. So, you know, again, it just you know, confirms my belief and knowledge, and that Matt is a truly competitive guy that wants to be a real good quarterback in the league, and more importantly, wants to be the leader of a team that wins a bunch of games, and you know, and he shows that every day out here, and he shows it, you know, in games like that are maybe not exactly the way you scripted or the way you want it to go, but you know, the fight stayed with really everybody, and that was a good sign for us.
What does the team get out of that to see, you know, someone who started the game who really, you know, it's completely justifiable for him to come out and says, no, I'm going to run back out there? You know, what does the team what's the benefit of that?
Well, I think you just see who your leaders are, and you see who cares. And you know, it wasn't any kind of test by any means. You know, we're in a game that we got a chance to get other guys some experience, maybe. But again, in a lot of our guys' cases, you know, all our, you know, the guys that are out there need experience. So I think it just shows that it shows your teammates that you care, you know, and that it's important to you, and that you care about your team, and in good times and in bad, and sometimes that's, you know, is even better tested in bad times.
You didn't have a captain's pick, or at least it wasn't visible in Denver. there a reason for that?
We had one.
Oh.
He just chose not to be visible.
Who was it?
Casey. Which is much like Casey. I wouldn't, you know, when I had him as a captain earlier in the year, he's one of the guys, and that's what he wants to be.
When you showed up out there in '07, what did you find when you sat down and started really looking at the tape of Larry Fitzgerald?
Specifically Larry?
Yeah, specifically.
You know, I saw a guy that, you know, as I knew, because I'd done a lot of work on him coming out, you know, I just saw a guy that had a heck of a lot of ability, that as much ability as I'd seen in any receiver, and that. But I saw, you know, as I went through practice and things like that, or saw some of our early practices, you know, I saw a guy that maybe I didn't know for sure whether he was practicing the way, you know, the way that he had to practice in order to be a great player, and working on the things that he had to work on to be a great player. But what I saw very quickly in Larry was, you know, that once you laid out a plan for him, you know, it became clear he wanted to be a great player, and really wanted to be the greatest player, and along with that, wanted to be part of a great team. So, you know, Larry was a you know, one of my favorite guys to work with, and but I had a lot out there in Arizona that mean a lot to me. But Larry being one of them. But you know, he was willing to do anything and everything to reach his goals, and he was thinking football all the time. You know, I can remember sitting on buses, you know, driving into stadiums, and him leaning over. You know, he'd always sit somewhere near me on the bus, and he'd be leaning over the seat, you know, asking about Keyshawn, or asking about Terry Glenn, or asking about run after catch. You know, he's always asking football questions. Asking about Lynn Swan, you know, asking him, you know, he was a football guy, you know, and, you know, had a football background with his father, you know, and it just was into it and wanted to be great. So pleasure to work with on a daily basis.
He gives you credit for him reaching his full potential. I would guess that for a coach, that's about as good a thing as you can hear.
Well, I appreciate that, but there were a lot of people involved, you know, and namely him, you know, and with some of his abilities, and a guy named Kurt Warner, but there were a lot of coaches and people involved in that, and but Larry, like I said, you know, those are the guys you love to work with, and because they get it and they understand what you're trying to get done, and they embrace it, and then they appreciate it, you know, or they realize that your goals are really the same as their goals.
In your time coaching football, what percentage of players that you've worked with individually would you say everybody wants to be the best, but what percentage actually were willing to do the work needed to be?
You know, Kurt Warner wanted to be the best, you know, and Kurt Warner cared about just going to Super Bowls. That's what he wanted to do, and that was his focus. You know, so you happen to have a few there in Arizona, you know, Anquan, Larry, Steve Breston, you know, kind of an unknown guy, you know, who's getting more and more known. But, you know, we had a handful of guys on that side of the ball that really wanted to be something special, you know, and as, you know, I was talking about it with Pete yesterday. You know, I've been lucky enough to be around, you know, Keyshawn Johnsons and Marty Bookers and Terry Glenn's and guys that really did, you know, that they wanted to be great players and were willing to do the things necessary to do it, you know, or to try to be that, and had some pretty good years, you know, you know, I was at least able to be there and see it.
Would you say of all the players that you may have had your hands on through the years, it's 10%, 25%?
I don't know, Bob. Hard to give a good answer on that. I mean, first of all, you need to, you know, you're talking about rare athletes and skill, you know, with a couple of those guys that actually can achieve it. And, you know, but the impressive thing to me, the thing that impressed me with Larry was when he changed over from just wanting to be a great player to wanting to be part of a great team. And when players do that, you know, when you get the Keyshawn's and the Larry Fitzgeralds to now put their goals aside, you know, their individual statistics aside, and really want to be part of the greater good of the team to achieve something special, that's when you really know you've had an impact, or when you feel like you've had an impact, when you hear them start talking about those types of things, and it's Super Bowls instead of Pro Bowls, and you know, and wins instead of 10 catch days. You know, that's when you know you're making progress.
All right.
Good.
Todd, I know, I respect the fact that you don't want to talk about your leg, that's fine. But you know there's going to be 1 million people watching on TV during the game. Are you confident that's not going to be a hindrance for you at all? That you'll be able to get through, do everything you need to do, and get to every spot you need to get to in time?
Like I said, I'm not even on the injury sheet. I didn't see my name yet, so we're just,
you need to do in here?
yeah, just as long as I'm not sitting on one of those little carts. Just joking. All right, thanks, guys.